My name is Dr. Christopher Graham. I am a clinical social worker and a board-approved supervisor here in McAlester, Oklahoma.
And I am Charlene, and I am an LMSW under supervision right now, studying for my LCSW exam.
So going over some test prep stuff, what are some of the things that you are struggling with?
I think right now, one of the things that I've noticed in some of the practice things and the information I've been reading, defense mechanisms, there's quite a few of them. And so kind of going over some of those, I feel would be beneficial and helpful, even to be able to see some of the differences. Like that's kind of getting me hung up.
Okay, so defense mechanisms. What is it that you're struggling with specifically?
So I had a question the other day, and countertransference and transference were in it. And honestly, the way that it kind of laid it out, I didn't even want to say transference. It was, the question is you have a client who comes in to see you, and this client essentially tells you that they love you because you've worked through them. You've worked through the trauma. So they've kind of connected with you because you've helped them through that trauma part. And it asked you in the question, gave you 4. This one happened to have 4, not the 3. Gave you 4. And one of the questions was it transference or countertransference, and I was like, okay, no, it's not countertransference because that's what you're putting onto them. So I eliminated that one like instantaneously. I didn't say transference, like I just went with a different one. I just kind of talked to myself out of it. In hindsight, I can kind of see maybe where I missed, but I'm struggling. Like denial is like super easy. I'm like, I see denial and I'm like, bam, got it. No, it's denial. Understand. Intellectualization, I believe it is. That one gets me.
Hold on. Okay. So when it comes to defense mechanisms specifically, if the test asks about defense mechanisms, it's usually asking about Freudian theory and the key defense mechanisms that go along with Freud. So denial, displacement, projection, rationalization, reaction formation, regression, repression, and sublimation.
I missed one. Denial, displacement, projection, reaction formation, regression, repression, sublimation.
Yeah, those are the main ones.
7.
So 7. So
okay.
When I see defense mechanisms come up on the test, these are the 7 that I typically would think of. So these are the keys that I would suggest studying so that you really have these down. So denial. What is denial?
Not acknowledging something.
It's a river in Egypt. Just let it sink in.
I got it. But it wasn't funny.
Denial. It was hilarious. I've been waiting to do that one joke. That's all I've got. Okay. So denial. Denial is like you can't accept that a thing is, right? You just generally, you can't accept it. You deny that it is. Displacement. What is displacement?
I think the question I had last that had displacement was someone was kind of being bullied at work and treated poorly and kind of talked down to. And then when they came home, that's what they did to their family. So instead of addressing it at work, they came home and kind of vomited that on their family and what they were doing. And so the answer was displacement because they were displacing from there to there.
So like if you drop a weight in water, what happens? The water pours out in other places. Yes, the weight gets wet, but it's the mess that comes on the outside of the cup, right? So displacement is you take it out on other things more than the thing that's causing the issue. Projection.
Kind of like you're moving your thoughts and ideas onto someone else. Like if you're frustrated, you want to, I think the analogy is a lot of people give is like a projector and you're projecting your thoughts and ideas onto them.
Absolutely. So the projection.
How's that different from displacement?
Because projection is, I feel bad about myself. And so I like the image from a projector. The image is in the projector, but what do we see it on? Everyone else. The image, it comes from inside the projector. It's something that the projector carries, right? But where do they see the image? On everyone around them. So projection is there's this internal thing that they're putting on other people and they can only see it on other people. When you say, man, you have a lot of this, like this is a you thing. They don't see that. They only see what other people are doing. So where displacement is, there's frustration with the weight, right? But what happened is there's a mess getting taken out on everybody else. They can see clearly that there's an outside force, but instead of dealing with that force. But with projection, there's an inside force that they can't address, almost like denial. And so what do? They put it on other people. Well, they've got the problem. Why are you angry all the time, right? And really, it's that person that's constantly agitated. Rationalization. What's rationalization?
So I think like the word that's in it, finding a balance. I honestly...
How is that a defense? How does that protect the person?
So I guess if something maybe like bad happens to you, you try to make it make sense.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know.
I wouldn't use the term balance so much as I would say trying to justify it, right? So they justify their bad behaviors. So they rationalize it, or they rationalize some tragic, horrifying event. And the tricky part about defense mechanisms is that they show up all the time. They're cyclical, and sometimes they're even helpful, as we'll see in a couple of these. Sometimes they don't get in the way. Sometimes they actually help the person. But if you do it long term and you don't process what's going on, then it does have negative outcomes. So that's where we want to make sure that we're addressing them. But justifying that or rationalizing that something happened, something horrifying happened, it is a defense mechanism because it protects us from maybe the awful truth of, yes, horrible things happen, but why did they have to happen to me? Why did I have to deal with all of that? Why, I was a kid, why did I have to go through all of that? And that might be a question that they can't answer, but they could justify, well, they were in pain, so they beat me. Well, we didn't have enough, so I can understand why they'd be angry. So it's not healthy long term.
So questions from this one could be like a lot of people who've kind of gone through trauma.
That's one possible.
But
yeah,
it could go different ways.
It could go different ways, but all of these could be centered around trauma on some level, just trying to make it make sense. Reaction formation. What is reaction formation?
So look at the word react and how something happens, how you react to it. Reaction
formation is really tricky. Reaction formation is something awful happens and you learn to defend yourself by reacting in a way that might be helpful or beneficial, almost not pretending, but overcompensating with other skills. That's what I would say. It's almost like overcompensating.
Like a motivator?
Not really a motivator. It's not really a motivator because you're defending yourself. So you're not really addressing the things that are coming up. You're not really dealing with the issues. Reaction formation is, I'm going to defend myself by over-exaggerating these other skills.
So how would you put that into a small definition? How would you put that into words?
Okay.
In this
So
one?
into words, simple, straightforward example might be a mom that resents her child might present as overly affectionate, right? There's an overcompensation for it. It's almost like I resent the feelings in myself, and so I amplify this other feeling. I put a megaphone on the feelings and reactions that other people will accept because I can't accept the pain on the inside. That would be a simple statement of reaction formation.
I put amplify another feeling.
Yeah, great. And it's the opposite feeling, right? So amplify the opposite feeling. Okay, so then this is where the other one gets and these two get really convoluted. So sublimation. Sublimation and reaction formation are really closely tied together. So sublimation is a submarine, okay? A person has really aggressive impulses growing up. They fight, they argue, they fuss. They have enemies with everyone they hang out with. To divert attention from those misdeeds, the bad behaviors, they become a soldier, right? Or they become an officer. Because it's okay to be aggressive when someone is hostile towards other people or when you're in a war, right? So sublimation, that defense mechanism is, I'm going to substitute with something that is socially acceptable for those behaviors.
So like a UFC fighter.
Yeah, that'd be a great example.
Anyone.
Right? So someone who likes street fighting takes on UFC.
It's a really big,
and they become the ultimate fighter. Yes, that's absolutely
but it's not
the
everyone,
case.
but there could be those.
Yeah, and that's where, being a UFC fighter, being a soldier, being an officer, those are good things. There's nothing wrong with any of those things. But when you're using those to escape or to not deal with something that's broken, and that's these defense mechanisms. When something is broken and you don't want to deal with it or you truly can't deal with it, your mind makes up ways to block the pain. And that's what Freud is saying here. We can't move forward because we're not dealing with things that exist. Now, Freud's theory was based on, psychosexuality and, parental love and all of that. And there might be substance to it, but really when it comes to defense, we can't move forward because these things are clinically significant. They're impairing our ability to move forward.
So give me sublimation just in a couple
Yep.
words because I'm going to make my index card.
Substitute a bad feeling or behavior for a socially acceptable feeling or behavior. And reaction formation is amplify the opposite of the negative. Denial, I truly can't accept what's going on. So displacement is I don't have power in a situation, so I assume power over other people. Or I feel weak and helpless, right? The water splashes everywhere because the rock has been dropped into it. Regression is going backwards. Regress means that you're truly going backwards. So for a kid dealing with a new trauma, they might be able to speak 1 month and then trauma happens and then all of a sudden they can't speak. Or something that we see a lot is with potty training. You have a 2-year-old, 3-year-old that you're training and new baby comes along and what happens? They're pooping all over the place. Repression. Repression would simply be I push down the things that I don't want to feel or that aren't acceptable to feel or experience. We repress, we push them down, we press them down. Rationalization. So rationalization is I justify the situation, right? I make sense of it somehow, some way. So then let's go back to this idea of transference and countertransference. The way that I remember that is transference is the client they're transferring on you as the clinician. The client is the one that transfers. Countertransference, the way that I remember it is countertransference is something that has to be gotten over the counter. They can only get it from the clinician.
I love light bulb moments. So I'm going to take these now and put them onto my note card, my index cards.
Good deal.
Kind of help me just to kind of study and go back over this.
Good luck.
Thank you.